And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hi, I'm Tom Vasel, and this is Chaos that we're talking about today. Okay, the game isn't probably as exciting as I make it out to be. Chaos is a card game that is really unlike any other card game that I've played before. In fact, when you first play it, you will think that the name is accurate, Chaos, because the game feels very chaotic. Now, there actually is some really interesting strategy here. I mean, you're finding groups of cards, almost like an old maid style, but there's chaos versus order, which is really the theme of the game, where you can try to go for one way of scoring or try to go for a different way of scoring, but you have to be careful because you can lose points or gain points in different ways. There seems to be a fair amount of luck in the game, even when there's a lot of, once players know what they're doing, and I'm afraid that a lot of new players will be turned off, not by the complexity of the rules, but just how oddly the game seems to play at first. So let's take a look at the game itself, and then I'll give you my final opinion of it. The first thing I'd like to mention is that I was really impressed with the layout of the rules for Chaos. You know, at the beginning, they have what you want to do, what to avoid, and then how to play, very nicely organized. I was very impressed with that. So the very first thing that you're going to do in the game is you're going to deal out this deck of cards, although you're going to have an extra set you're dealing out to an invisible player, so there's some extra cards. Each of the cards is numbered, and you can see that there's different colors, but those colors are to match the number. So all twos are pink. And there's this funky symbol in the middle, which for the longest time I thought, are these some kind of weird chaos and order symbols? But no, it's just the number on top of each other. There's twos, and you can see the ones and the eights. That was pretty cool. I like the design of the cards quite a bit. And then there's a few order cards in here, and then there's a few chaos cards. Ooh, chaos. There are 4 order cards in the deck, and there are 2 chaos. And because of that, there are 3 rules that are always in effect. First rule is this: if I get an order card and a chaos card in my hand at the same time, that is not allowed to happen. They cannot coexist. Out goes the order. Chaos kicks that order, and it goes into the middle of the table. Now, this is important because if all 4 order cards are ever in the middle of the table, then that's called the surrender of order, and the round is immediately over. Chaos. Whenever someone discards a chaos into the middle of the table, then play is interrupted. Everyone puts their hands down, face down on the table. Everybody passes them in a direction until the player who discarded the chaos card decides to stop, and you pick up the hand of cards. You say, well, that is chaotic. Not necessarily, because you can control which hand of cards you're getting. So if you know from which player that you want cards, it's an interesting thing to discard a chaos card into the middle of the table. As game progresses, there will be cards that are thrown into the middle of the table called the pool. Sometimes you need to drain the pool, which is an interesting terminology. But whenever you start your turn and there's 5 or more cards in the middle of the table, then starting with you take one of these cards in your hand, and everyone continues around the table taking cards in their hand until the pool is empty. The pool will, of course, fill up again as the game progresses. But on a player's turn, you have some actions that you may take. On a player's turn, they have 1, 2, or 3 actions. They don't have to spend, they have to do at least 1, but they can do up to 3. Most of the time you'll take 3 actions. One of the actions can be, there's that extra hand of cards I told you about. You can take one of those cards and place it into your hand. Another thing you do is you can ask another player if they have a specific card. You have to play the card that you're looking for. So let's say, for example, I'm looking for a 3. I can say, hey, Joe, do you have a 3? And then he says, no, go fish. Oh, I'm sorry, not go fish. But if he has one, he gives it to me. If he doesn't, I must discard a card into the pool. You cannot ask the same player for the same card more than once. If you fail, you have to go to another player. But if you ask people for cards 3 times, and all 3 times you are successful, then everybody else has to discard a card to the pool. Another action you can take is a trade, which says, here, I'll give you a card, you give me a card. Both players give the other player a card, they don't see what the cards are, and lo and behold, now you have a new card. And then you can battle. You put a card in front of you. All other players put a card in front of them at the same time, and the player who has the highest unique value is the winner. So maybe 2 people played an 8, and another person played a 3, and another person played a 4. The 4 would win because the 8s cancel out. And the winner of the battle gets to take all the remaining battle cards into their hand. And so that's a way to get a bunch of cards if you want. Now, chaos cards are pretty powerful, and so are order cards. But the whole goal of this game is to get a set of cards. There is 4 of every card in the deck. However, you don't want 4, you want 3. Once you get 3 cards of the same kind, you can put them in front of you. As I said, these cards are safe from other players, and you can see here that, well, here they're worth 1 point for having a set of 3 cards. If you would get the 4th card somehow, that would be worth 0 points, and you don't want that. The order cards are the most powerful cards in the game. They're very useful. If at the end of the game, for some reason, you have 3 of these order cards in your hand, you get 3 points. Unfortunately, if you have all 4, you get no points. So you have to be careful to only get 3. If on another player's turn, you have 3 order cards in your hand, and those are the only 3 cards in your hand, you can reveal that and get 4 points, and the round ends. If it's your turn and you have only 3 order cards in your hand and no other cards, you can play them. You'll get 5 points, and again, the round ends and it's time to score. Each player will get points for each set of cards that they have. However, if in their hand they have the 4th card of that set, then that set becomes nothing to them. Order cards can be worth 3, 4, or 5 points depending on when you play them. But if you have any chaos cards in your hand, 1 or 2, doesn't matter, you score 0 for the entire round. So chaos cards are evil. And that's the end of the round. You play as many rounds as you want, and at the end of the game, whoever has the most points is the winner. As I said, Chaos is a very interesting game to get the grasp of. I mean, most players start out by simply just playing Go Fish. Do you have a 3? Do you have a 4? Do you have a 3? You know, and then, oh, I messed up. Now everyone knows I have a 3, and so will steal it from me. And it feels like an advanced version of Go Fish. The Chaos versus Order thing is interesting. But as the game progresses, you find out there's different strategies. To deliberately ask somebody for the wrong card so that you can discard a card you don't want in the middle. To try and figure out where the order cards are, to try and get all 3 of them, because that could be a big game changer. To know when to discard the Chaos card, to know where the cards are you want to have those cards passed to you. There's other strategies in the game, and the game becomes interesting. Now, I'm not keeping the game, and I'm not giving it a bad recommendation, but I'm not going to give it a great recommendation either. And here's why. I think Chaos is very interesting, and I think there's a subset of players who are really going to enjoy this style of play. But for me, I don't really care for games where to understand them you need to play it multiple times just to get subtle hints at strategy. Because I found that when I'm introducing Chaos, most players are going to be after the first play. Yes, maybe after 3 or 4 plays, they'll say, oh, I'm starting to see it now, but I would hope that the strategies will be a little bit more evident closer on in the game. I did not dislike my playings of it. I thought it was fun. I didn't think it was absolutely hilariously fun, and like I said, the Chaos, even though I know the strategies are there, seems to rear its head, and at least, you know, if I start the game with a certain number of cards, I have a better chance than other people. Again, that can be mitigated by play of the Chaos cards and the order cards, but for now, I'm just going to give this one a fairly neutral review. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's, I mean, I guess it's good, but it's not my style. Maybe it's yours, and if so, have fun with Chaos versus Order.
Thanks for joining us today. For more written, audio, and video reviews, as well as the #1 board game podcast, check out the website at www.thedicetower.com. Until then, this is Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.